Good morning, everyone. Jenny Wise here from WiseMind Yoga Psychology School and WiseMind Soul Warrior. And I am super honored and excited to have Stephanie Wallace on with us. She is one of our soon-to-be graduates from yoga teacher training. And so she has been willing to step out and be brave and be fearless to get on one of these lives and share her experience, which I'm so grateful for. So let's start a little bit, Steph, with how we connected. I know this was like a situation where it was a referral, and just kind of talk about what that experience was like, how you connected with Patricia or through somebody else, and then also what was kind of bringing you, or where were you, like what place were you in when you heard about it and you were like, okay, I need to do this. Whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
Yes, absolutely. Hi, everyone. So yes, like you said, through Patricia, I had a friend at a place where I work. She was actually a regular customer, and we connected multiple times through her coming in. She's kind of like a journey traveler and just the most beautiful person. So I felt very comfortable sharing with her about like things that I've been going through, like looking to do yoga and wanting to, like I mentioned, starting to do yoga programs and expanding my mind and looking at things that would also just help me not only physically but mentally. And a couple months had actually passed that I hadn't spoken with her, and all of a sudden she's like, hey, I have a friend who's in this program. I remember you talking about your yoga, and she's like, would you like to connect with her just to talk with her about it, because she really loves it. And I was like, well, yeah, absolutely. So she connected me with Patricia, who is in Colorado and I am in Tennessee. So I'm like, random person that I'm connecting with. And I started talking to Patricia, and she just couldn't.
Well, you went out. Your mic went out. That's weird.
How about now?
Okay, now I can hear you. Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. So you were saying that you connected with Patricia, and what was she sharing with you when you guys connected?
Yeah, it was right at the beginning of when school really just started. So I think the summer cohort did start in July. Okay, so I connected with her at the end of near the end of August timeframe. So she was just talking to me about like what she had experienced so far in the beginning, and just like the material already just in the beginning time was already kind of like life altering and just like already creating positive change. And she sounded just so in love with everything that was going on, and just like really excited and happy about like what this could do for her, that I was like, oh, I want to experience it. So she sent me like the link to everything, and I looked into it, read it, and I was like, this is literally the program. If I cry, sorry. Well, not sorry, but the program that I have been looking for. I'm like, I didn't know what I was actually looking for. And then 2 months out of nowhere, this person connects me to her. And I was like, this is literally it. That didn't just happen. I was like, something led me here. And I felt that. So I got on a call with Lindsay, and Lindsay's phone call, I was on board when I spoke to Lindsay. She helped me realize that I was like, this is the program that I needed. This is what I needed in my life. This was going to help change me. I could feel it. And so I did what I needed to do to get like, funds and everything in order, get like everything situated so that I could do this. And that's what brought me here. And it's been life altering.
Yeah. And it's such an honor, like such a pleasure. And you and I have talked about this, and I've talked about it with other students to sit back and watch like the transformation and the healing that happens, because this, that I was inspired through my own healing and transformation, as you will be, to share this out into the world and to help other people heal and transform the way I was able to. And all the awakenings and the ahas that I had, I was like, I have got to share this with other people. And Lindsay has been such like a beautiful soul sister, but also like I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it, which is one of the reasons why she was one of our mentors and why she's also a coach, is because she is an advocate and for the program, and she clearly has seen it in her own life. And so she's a dear soul sister and somebody that like I'm so appreciative for. And she like 100% has my back all the time. And she's one of those people that are in my inner circle of people that I trust. And that is why, she's getting on a call with you, right? Because if there's somebody that could represent me as far as like the program and being as passionate about it and also seeing the transformation in their own life, it's her. So, and I am a firm believer in divine intervention, and that just like I've shared with you my own experience with divine intervention from my teacher in Los Angeles, that it was divine intervention that you were meant to be part of this program, right? And we were meant to serve you. So, yeah, I'm a big believer in that, in divine intervention. So like you said, that wasn't a coincidence. I mean, you think about all those things that had to happen, right?
Yep.
It had to be interconnected.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? And just
Yep.
the fact that even though you started a month late, you still started. And then you were able to work through, getting a loan and doing funds and all of that stuff. And here you are.
Yep.
Like, so I'm a big proponent, and I was in the same situation when I started my training. I had to figure out how to pay for it too. So the point is, like, I've been there. I understand. Like, I was a student once too. Do you know what I mean? I'm still a student, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I've had to figure out ways to invest in programs, and I still continue to with like business coaches and things that I work with. So that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But okay, so share a little bit more about what you feel comfortable sharing. Was there anything at the time that personally or professionally that you were struggling with that kind of like brought you, like it might have been anxiety, depression, stress, overwhelm, whatever, relationships, whatever the thing is that you feel comfortable sharing? Was there anything that was like, yes, I need to, because I know you said you were a big proponent of wanting to do your own work, like wanting to do your inner work. And then eventually the teaching part was part of it, but that your main kind of drive for it was your own inner work.
Yes.
So what was some areas that you feel comfortable sharing that, do you know what I mean? That kind of like was like, okay, this is it. It's time. I'm ready. I'm moving into this next layer of healing.
Yep.
Yeah.
I wrote down like a lot of stuff. I was like, oh, I enjoy writing, so it allows it all to come out of me. Yeah, honestly, some of the things that you mentioned, stress, anxiety, depression, clinically severe depression. Like I actually went and did psychological testing at a facility, and yeah, I was in the severe depression range, like right underneath that borderline of that next level that you don't want to go into. And yeah, ADHD. I was diagnosed bipolar. I was told I was bipolar most of my life because mental illness runs in my family. So that's generational. That happens in my family, and I know it happens in a lot of people's families. So those things, just chronic ongoing issues within my body. And I've come to understand now that a lot of the issues that was having within my physical self was due to my mental. My own stress and anxiety sprained my neck. I was in the emergency room a year ago because I sprained my own neck due to stress. The hospital worker, instead of like, once they figured out, they're like, hey, nothing is actually like wrong with you, they came over to me and spoke to me about my mental health. And I was like, I was at such a point to where I physically injured myself. I didn't realize you could do that. I didn't realize that stress could do that. It could manifest so hard. And I'm sure it's the cause for many, and I've come to find out it's the cause for many other things that have been going on in my body that have manifested themselves in physical ways. But It was that, and I got to a low point again from a repetitive cycle of what I always found myself in the same kind of loop where I'd be like, oh, I get down here and then I build myself back up, but then I just go in that loop because I didn't know how to fix anything. I didn't fix anything. What
Mhm.
I thought was productivity was busy work. What I thought was helping me was actually avoidance, filling my life with everything else rather than going within. I
Mhm.
didn't want to sit with myself. I didn't want to be with myself. I didn't even like myself.
Mhm.
Like now, completely different. It took me to a point where I was sitting in a parking lot at Kroger, and I'll never forget this. There had many things that would happen, so I'm not giving that long story of that, but there are many things that happened that took me to a point in a Kroger parking lot where I had a mental breakdown and cried and gave myself two options: either change in whatever way that looks like, no matter what it is, being open to literally anything and everything that could change what is going on, because clearly what is going on and what I've been doing not working.
Yeah.
Either that or don't be here. And I say that as someone who has been suicidal. And that wasn't an option for me. I told myself that wasn't an option. So the option was to change. And so I started on that journey. And that's what led me to my friend Sean. And that's what led me to Patricia. And that's what led me to you. And that's what led me to here is I allowed myself to be open to change.
Mhm.
And now I freaking love myself. I would never have said that before. I love myself, and that love is spreading out to other people, and that has manifested itself in so many ways. I now realize, and I now have a support system that I didn't feel like I had before. I'm
Mhm.
now aware to the love that people were giving me that I pushed off in my mind as, oh, they don't actually care. They're just being nice. I'm like, I never thought anyone actually cared about me. And I was so wrong. So,
Mhm.
so wrong. But so yeah, that's just what brought me to the program.
Girl, you just brought me to tears. I had to like heal myself like I'm not and I'm usually pretty good at like holding space, you know what I mean, and not getting pulled in. So
Yeah.
I've literally got like tears in my eyes. So so when you were in the parking lot at Kroger,
Mhm.
when was that? That was last year, right?
Yeah, that was, I believe, around January, February
Okay, so that was
timeframe.
about a year ago.
Yeah.
And then when was it you saw your friend Sean? When did
That was, I want to say like early summer,
early
around
summer,
June
so let's say
timeframe.
May, June,
Hmm.
and then it came back up in August
Hmm.
when she connected you with Patricia, and then
Yep.
that's when you started the program.
Yep.
Okay. Again, there's those dots that I'm talking about that
Yep.
we could never do that. That is why there is a divine intervention. You want to call it universe, God. I call it God. Call it whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
source, but I call it God. We couldn't do that. You know, like these ways that he pulls people together and he puts dots together, and there's no way you can do that on your own. I'm a firm believer of that anyway. So, with those things that you struggled with that you had said with mental health,
Hmm.
and when you had said that you were um, struggling, like when someone had diagnosed you with bipolar and some of these
Hmm.
things, was that a misdiagnosis for you?
It
It was.
was.
It was
I
a
found that out actually last year when a psychologist, not a psychiatrist, told me, he's like, "You're not bipolar." And it's like, "Who told you were bipolar?" And I said, "Multiple psychiatrists." I had one psychiatrist that, I'm not even kidding you, literally held up the book. Was it DSM? Like, I think
Mhm.
something like that. He held it up and I said, "Why do you think I'm bipolar?" This man's literal answer, held up the book. He said, "It's textbook." And I was just like, I'm not a book. I'm like, I'm me. I'm like, and so
Yeah,
that felt really weird to me. And that's when I started like going off and was just like, something doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel right to me. I'm like, I know my dad was bipolar. My dad is bipolar one. I watched that man struggle. And now, like through the program, honestly, I'm starting to believe that mental illnesses and a lot of like things that we label ourselves as, they're just so that like medical can understand it. I am not my diagnosis. I am not ADHD. I just have a brain that works like this. I am not my label. And that's what I feel now.
Mm-hmm.
I am not any label that you put on me and be like, okay, my brain may do this. That's not who I am. It's just
Right.
that's something I have to work through and challenge myself every single day to either deal with. And some days it's not, and the many things, they're not even there anymore. They're not even a struggle anymore through this work that we've done.
Yeah. Well, girl, I'm telling you, hold on one second. I have a hard time. Um, as far as um, the amount of times I've seen with other students too, where someone has been misdiagnosed, and whether that was, clinical depression, bipolar, personality disorder, whatever the thing is, I feel like there's so many psychiatrists and counselors included. And I'm not generalizing, right? So there's a lot that this is not the case. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just sharing from
Yep.
different students and things that oftentimes people are misdiagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, whether it's a legit or illegit diagnosis, I definitely agree with you where I think a lot of people put their value and their worth as a label of, oh, I'm bipolar, I have clinical depression or whatever the thing is. Like to your point, I am not my depression. I am not, these labels that are put on me so that a counselor can put me in a DSM, or in this label. And not to mention the fact that we're so much more than our cognitive thinking brain, right? We're our heart and our soul and our entire body. We're our generational trauma, where the generational trauma that we hold in our body goes far beyond how our brain is wired,
Mm-hmm.
because our brain can be rewired and the chemistry of our brain can be rewired. So that's one small piece of somebody's overall healing and transformation. That's not to say it's not important. So I'm not saying that it's not. And biochemistry and brain chemistry are important, but it's one piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like oftentimes, certain counselors, again, I'm not going to generalize because they're not all this way, but depending on who you work with and who you talk to and what their training is, if they have any somatic training or, other types of training beyond cognitive therapy,
Mm-hmm.
they're only focusing on the thinking brain
Yep.
and maybe some of the subconscious mind. And some of them don't even get into the subconscious mind because they're just talk
Mm-hmm.
therapy. And so you just keep talking about your problems over and over again, which doesn't solve anything. It actually makes them worse because we're putting emotional charge on those problems.
Mm-hmm.
And when you put emotional charge on something, you just add to it and just keeps going until you stop talking about it and you actually heal it and resolve it.
Yes.
I did want to also touch base on you mentioning about the mind-body manifestations of
Mm-hmm.
stress and how you said you had the sprained neck.
Mm-hmm.
You probably realize this by now, based on the things that we've studied in the training, that it is, our mind-body connection is very much intertwined,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just like our heart and our heart and our mind are intertwined. Our gut and our heart and our mind are intertwined. All of this, like I'm getting goosebumps just talking about this. And it can manifest, right? Like when we're in our place of fight or flight and survival mode, and we're living from our limbic brain and we're living in a state of fight or flight, things are going to manifest. And if we have things that unresolved trauma or unresolved wounds, or our nervous system needs to be repaired, that's a big part of it, is that our nervous systems and our immune systems are damaged, and we have to heal our nervous system. Because if we've been going 10, 15, 20, however many years it's been, 25 years, whatever it was, like for me, it was like in my 40s until I was going like in survival mode, fight or flight all the time, until I had a breakdown in 2013. And my mind and body said, we're done. You gotta take a break. And that's what happened. So that's what led me to yoga. That's what led me to what I do today. So you want to talk about an awakening, right?
Yep.
So I get it. And I understand, like, I've been there. Like, I understand what you're talking about with like physical or mental manifestations showing up from stress or from living in survival mode and living in fight or flight, whether it's depression, anxiety, the strain in your neck, back problems, whatever the thing is. For everybody out there that will listen to this replay, it will manifest in the mind and body some way if it's not resolved. And to your point, many people, including myself, including what you shared, are running around like distracting themselves, and they're avoiding actually going deep enough into their body and their feelings, right? You got to feel to heal, to actually address the root cause of what's causing the physical or mental manifestations.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
100%.
And I'm raising my hand, girl, because I'm right there with you. Like what you shared about, like, you running around and keeping yourself busy and distraction, because I was the queen of distraction.
Yep.
Okay? I was the queen of overworking, and, I call it the busy syndrome, avoidance to not have to feel my feelings. So believe me, that was one of my coping mechanisms. So I'm grateful to have worked through that. And that's why we teach it to you in the program, because I call it, like I said, I call it busy syndrome. Mm-hmm. So yeah. And that teaching people that stress is a habit and that we actually choose our stress. Mm-hmm. I remember the first time I realized that, and I made that connection of like, first of all, I can control my thoughts and emotions. That's what emotional regulation is. And second of all, I can change my thought, emotion, behavior pattern. And third, I'm actually choosing this stress. I'm choosing to put myself into fight or flight. That means I can choose not to.
Yep.
And that's the beautiful part, right? It's the choice to say, I can choose to be in joy and happiness and peace, or I can choose to be in these other states. Now, it doesn't mean that sometimes we're going to get off balance and we're going to end up in one of these other states, right? It's not like peace, love, joy, happiness, bliss all the time. So I'm not here saying this is like some kind of like magic pill, right?
Right.
But the point being that from an emotional regulation perspective and from a mood perspective and from a stress resilience perspective, that a majority of the time you can get to the place when you're in this kind of state of calm, right? Mm-hmm. And that you're not getting these waves like this as often, or at a certain extent, you won't get them barely at all. Mm-hmm. But you'll stay in this like little waves of emotion, right? So still allowing yourself to feel it, but not getting to the point where you're avoiding it, or you're in emotional dysregulation, you're in emotion mind, right? Because we want to be in WiseMind.
Yep.
Okay, so I want to say kudos to you, by the way, for all this work that you're doing, because it is not easy work, as you know, but it's work. It's not easy work. Shadow work and soul work. And family
shadow work is not easy at all, but it's so amazing.
Okay, so you can share, speaking of shadow work and soul work, you can share, if you'd like, a little bit of maybe what you did with your paper. But if you were going to pick like 1 or 2 things, 1 to 3 things, whatever that is, you feel like you've really changed through shadow work, or maybe certain patterns, some scar patterns changed, where do you feel like you've seen the biggest difference?
100%. That would be in like the awareness and mindfulness, like simply being aware of myself. Mm-hmm. Being aware of myself, I didn't even know was a concept I could grasp. I literally, I was not aware of myself. Just to give like clarity, like back on how not connected with me I was when I was in therapy. My therapist would ask the simplest question that I'm pretty sure anyone anywhere, even if they're not a therapist, would ask. What are you feeling? Simple question, right? I couldn't answer that question. And what happened when I couldn't answer what I was feeling, which sounds like a simple question, I got angry. Anger was a feeling I could feel. Anger was a feeling I knew. Stress was a feeling, like all like the negative feelings that you feel. Those were easy for me to say. I feel sad. I feel unhappy. I feel unloved, like all those other things. I couldn't describe though what I was feeling in that moment, even if it was not anger or sadness or anything. I couldn't describe it, couldn't feel it. So becoming more aware and mindful of my thoughts, how my thought train works, like being aware of uncovering my habits and my patterns and going really, really deep within to unpack things that I haven't unpacked. They went in a suitcase a long time ago and they stayed there. And I've just been dragging that freaking emotional baggage suitcase around like with me my entire life. Well, I just started packing it. Sometimes it felt like it was exploding, and then sometimes I was able to unpack things one by one. But going through shadow work and delving into a few areas that were like some core wounds that I really didn't process through, it really is what transformed everything. I went through one process, just for briefly describe, was I took myself back to a place where I had a very, very vivid, very, very vivid moment in my childhood that was actually really, for me, traumatic. And I was able to go into that area through like help of this work, and then also like through my therapist who like helped guide me through as well. And I was able to go into that moment like my young self was the only one who could see me. I was the only one who could see her. She could only see me. Nothing else has happened. It was still that exact moment, but I was seeing it through the lens of what this program has taught me. I'm seeing it through the lens of awareness of there was more going on than in that moment that I realized as my like 14, 15-year-old self. The awareness of what my parents were going through with that knowledge that I have now, the awareness of everything that was going through. And I was able to take that little girl aside and be like, hey, you don't belong here. Come with me. This is not your issue. This isn't on you. And I pulled her away. And that was like a changing point for me, because it was like, hey, I'm aware enough of myself now to understand that my perception of a lot of things have been clouded. They have been fogged, and becoming more aware and mindful of what's going on in my inner world has been able to help me connect to everything on the outside in a way that I never have before. It's been able to help me unpack all of that emotional baggage and be like, you know what? Where I used to hate on myself, where I hated myself for things that I did. And now I'm just like, you know what? No, I don't hate me. I'm like, I didn't know any better in that moment. And that's okay, because I can't go back in the past and change it, but I can heal it. I can heal that hurt so that I'm no longer carrying it with me. And so for me, that's literally probably been my biggest transformation is the awareness and the mindfulness. And it helps me every day now be connected to me, be connected to the outer world. And I am seeing so many amazingly beautiful things manifest from it, all from being aware of what's going on in here. Like, who would have thought that being completely emotionally disconnected is kind of giving you garbage results on the outside?
Well, see, that's the scary part is when you're disconnected. It's interesting you bring that word up. When you're disconnected from your emotions, right, which is a trauma response, right? That's a survival mechanism, a coping mechanism. You're not just shutting down your bad emotion, not bad, difficult emotions, right? Like sadness and anger when those get out of control. You're also shutting down your joy and your happiness and your peace and your ability to feel those higher vibration emotions. And many people don't realize that when I'm disconnected from myself, my authentic self, and when I'm in that survival mode, I'm disconnecting myself from my ability to feel joy and my ability to be in this high vibrational state. And so for anybody who's listening, listen to this replay, we invite you to reconnect with yourself, right? That's what connecting to your authentic self is. And a huge step for that is, to your point, self-awareness. And maybe you already know what self-awareness is, but maybe it's stepping into a deeper level of self-awareness, because the peeling back of the layers and the onions is a lifelong journey. Okay. So there's a lot that's going to happen in this program. Believe me, a lot of change and transformation is going to happen, a lot of healing.
Oh, yeah.
But there will be more healing that will continue to happen as layers are peeled back. And I'm here as a living testimony of that too. You know, every year that goes by, you know, you change as an evolution of yourself, right? As a human, and the levels of healing that you have. And the starting point is, like you said, it is self-awareness. And the other part too is like being aware of yourself and your behavior and your thoughts and your emotions, but then getting to that point where you're like, okay, I'm ready to change. Like, I'm done with this. You know, I'm done with like, you know, I definitely dealt with anger in the past too, because that was one of my go-tos. And I grew up with anger, and it was inherited, you know, for generations of verbal emotional abuse. And so that was what I inherited. Right. So it took me again into my 40s to figure that out. Why do I respond with anger? And I'm so grateful, because now it's very rare that I get angry. Like, usually it's, you know, it's more of a level of frustration. Like when you look at like the anger iceberg, and you've got hurt and fear and doubt and all that frustration, all these different emotions that are usually underneath the anger. Most of the time it's either sadness or frustration. I'm not really angry. Like, I was never like rageaholic angry. It was usually sadness and disappointment, and kind of like the abandonment or rejection wounds that were kind of underneath of that reaction of like being defensive, you know, like protecting yourself, which is another trauma response. And so oftentimes that's where that anger comes from too, is that you're trying to protect yourself. And I think like your realization of where your parents were when you were growing up, and that you didn't own that, and that you did the best you could as a child, and as you've continued as an adult, right? You've done the best you could with what you knew up to this point, and what your brain, heart, and body were ready to address, right? Because, you know, there might have been a reason why you were in that state, because you just weren't ready yet you needed to be able, the brain needed to be able to avoid it because it wasn't ready to deal with it yet, right? So part of that is also a protection. But then there's also like your parents, right? Like my parents struggled with things for me when I was young too, you know? And so each of us just being more aware. And I'm getting like goosebumps talking about this, because like I'm having this conversation with you, but this was an aha for me back in 2017, of being aware of my family of origin and how much it affected me and all my relationships. And it showed up everywhere. And then going back and going, okay, well, my mom was 25 when she had me. And, you know, my dad was in the Navy, and he was going back and forth, gone half the time. And, you know, she had me, my dad wasn't there, like all these things, right? She was there with her mom, but like they lived in California, and she had to fly to Illinois or drive, whatever she did to be with her mom to have me. And then my dad showed up like a month or 3 months later. So the point is, like, every single one of our parents, our mom and dad, has something that they were dealing with at the time. And we had no control over that. Right. And it's the same thing with like the family of origin that we've had, you know, that we've inherited. Right? We can't control our grandparents or our great grandparents or our parents' childhood and what we've inherited, the generational trauma that we've inherited. But that lives in our tissues. It lives in our DNA, in our mind, and our body. So that's why ultimately, though, it's our responsibility to heal it. As hard as it's been, as hard as it's still our responsibility to heal it. Does that make sense?
I can't change the past.
Yeah, because we're not putting that hurt out into other people. And the other thing is too, like when you talked about the mindfulness, not being in the present moment is also a trauma response. So the more you heal your trauma, the more you can be in the present moment, and you can be fully in your thoughts and emotions and be in your body, right? You're not disassociated with your body. right? You're not checking your mind out of your body. You're actually able to be in your body.
Yep.
That makes sense. And when you've gone, 20, 30, whatever, to some years being disassociated from your own body, you have to retrain yourself to be able to be back fully present in your body. Does that make sense?
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sitting here, girl, I'm preaching, like, because I totally, everything you're saying, I can relate to.
Yep.
Like, I get it, because yeah, I mean, I went years with being disassociated and avoiding and not, but I wasn't aware. Back to the
Yeah.
self-awareness,
I,
right?
I, I didn't know that's what I was doing. I didn't
Yeah.
know that all the things that were harming me, I was doing to myself. I didn't, I feel like I blamed so many outside factors for things that were coming from within that I didn't
Right.
realize. And that
And you
was definitely a hard piece of baggage to unpack there. So it's like, oh, hey, you're the one who sprained your neck and put yourself in the hospital. Cool. Let's work on that. I'm like,
yeah, that's, to your point, that is not an easy thing to
yeah,
admit. Like, when you make that, that kind of
yeah.
direction change, whatever you want to call it, or that awakening,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh, I'm the common factor. Like,
Yep.
oh, I need to, like, shine
Yeah.
some light on this. And clearly there's some work that I need to do.
Yeah. I was
But
putting myself in the same, I was putting myself in the same situations, just in different formats in a loop throughout my life. And then it's like, what is happening here? Why do the, like, you kind of hear people say, like, I have the worst luck, or bad things always happen to me. I'd be like, yeah, they did, because I mentally put myself there. Like, I wasn't unpacking that. I wasn't aware of it. I wasn't being mindful of it. So I just continued on the same self-destructive patterns, and being with the same people who were not meant for me, forcing friendships and relationships and anything else that wasn't meant for me. And I was like, and it made me to have this perception that the world is just hard, that people are hard to get along with. It is impossible. And I'm just like, now with everything that has changed, the support system that has come into my life, that I've actually allowed, and I say allow because I didn't allow it before. I pushed everything away from me. If something felt like it was loving me, I was like, go away, go away. I can't deal with this. I'm like, it was, and I wasn't literally those words, but that's what it felt like. It's like,
Mhm.
I pushed away anything that was love me, because I told myself it wasn't real, that those
Mhm.
people didn't care. Their kindness wasn't real.
Mhm.
Nothing that they said. I had second guessing everything, literally replaying almost every conversation that I've ever had with anyone back in my mind. And then carrying on the conversation with the person who's not even here. And that in turn changed my perception of other people. People, like, I subconsciously was upset at people for something that literally never happened. But my brain didn't know the difference. My
Right.
brain, that's one thing I've learned, is that my brain, it didn't know the difference between that fake conversation and a real conversation. And
It doesn't,
it
which is why
doesn't.
you've got to tell it positive things.
Yep. That's why literally
Really?
affirmations and gratitude every day,
Yeah.
every single day. I'm
Yeah.
like, life changing.
Yeah, definitely. Because your brain doesn't know the difference. So
Yep.
that's why you got to tell it positive things. That's
Yep.
why 95%, right, of those
Mhm.
repetitive thoughts, 95% are the same thoughts on a loop all the time in
Mhm.
your subconscious mind.
Yep.
So whatever that story, that limiting belief, whatever core values, it's just in a loop.
Mhm.
So that's why you've got to go,
Yep.
that's what we do with the psyche and yoga psychology. It's like we're breaking the psyche, we're breaking the loop,
Yep.
we're reprogramming the subconscious mind, we're creating new neuron pathways. That's neuroscience behind it. But then you add the
Mhm.
spiritual component and the soul work component, and there's soul work and there's science combined so that you're addressing all layers of the being, mind, body,
Yep.
and soul.
Which I love so much, because I am such an analytical mind. I'm like, I've been like I'm guess what you would call like type A, if you were to put me in a category. I'm like, and I'm just very like, I love the science behind it, and I love the spiritual behind it, because I'm a very highly sensitive person, very emotionally sensitive.
Mhm.
And so like those two combined, that's like my bread and butter right there. And I love it so much.
Yeah, girl, we're going to have another conversation when we get to some of these other questions, but I just want to quickly mention that I used to consider myself a type A personality, and I have literally changed and transformed so much in the past 10 years. that I think it's considered a type C personality. If you read the book, The Body Says No, and I believe it's from Gabor Mate. He's an MD that's done extensive work in trauma. And there's a section in there, and I'm pretty sure I have it in the training. I need to go back and double check, but I'm 99% sure. If it's not there yet, it needs to be. But basically, there's a type A, B, and C. And oftentimes the C is the one that is able to express their emotions instead of repressing their emotions. Whereas the type B, and I could be getting these reversed because I learned this like 10 years ago, but the type B, I believe the difference is they're a little bit more laid back. But they don't speak up and they repress their emotions. And so oftentimes, whatever these different types are, the ones that are more like the people pleasers and the ones that don't speak up and they repress emotions are as susceptible to cancer and different disease as a type A person is. But the point is that I've turned into this other personality type where I am able to let most things go versus in the past, I was more of a type A personality because I'm a recovering perfectionist too.
Same.
I'm a recovering workaholic.
Same.
And I'm here to share for all you perfectionists out there, because this is another stress trauma coping mechanism is perfectionism, is that you can change that. Because I would not be here right now and alive doing this. I wouldn't be doing a lot of work that I do now if I wouldn't have been able to heal that pattern. Because if I was so focused on perfectionism and control and myself, and I wouldn't be able to serve other people. So I've had to let that go so that I can be a vessel and just be open to like doing the best that I can. And the best that I can is good enough.
It is.
That is. Because what is it I say? Imperfect action is better than perfect procrastination. That's one of my love that mantra that I actually created that. Like that's one of my favorite mantras that I tell myself all the time. Imperfect action is better than perfect procrastination. And you got to just let go of the perfectionism and just take action and do it. And it might not be perfect, but that's okay. Because you know what? Perfect is actually an illusion.
It is.
There is no such thing as perfect. And that's from Brene Brown. Brene Brown says perfectionism is an illusion.
Yeah. I tell myself I'm imperfectly perfect in every way.
I love that. Okay. So let's go on to the consultation. So as far as I know, you had your consultation with Lindsay, but you and I have talked since then. And you were on, with Patricia the other day too. Like, what has been your experience with me as far as somebody getting on and having a consultation with me? What that style is like for us to get on a consultation with somebody, to get on a call with someone.
Yeah. Honestly, like whoever comes across this video is watching it, I'm like, literally the way that you've been, just open and kind and understanding. I'm like, you've been there, and you can tell when I've spoken with you. I think if anyone speaks with you, you can tell that you have done this work in yourself, and you empathize with us. Like, no matter what it is, it's there, and you can feel that coming from you. And I appreciate it so much. I appreciate that you have put in all of the work that you have put in to being here for us and showing up. I'm like, you don't have to show up, but you do. Like, you don't have to talk to us, but you do. And I appreciate that. And when someone gets on like a consultation with you, they can expect to hear like someone who's listening, someone who cares, someone who is rooting for them, someone who wants them to succeed and heal themselves. That's what they get when they speak with you. Aww. It's easy.
Thanks, girl. That means a lot. Like, because I spend so much time, as you know, like putting myself out there and serving other people, that sometimes it's really nice to have it reciprocated, like to say, I'm thank you. Like, you are making a difference. Like, I'm
yes.
not from an ego way. I just mean from like an inspiration and encouragement way.
It's reassuring.
Yeah. To keep going.
Yeah.
So these help me as well when we do these, because to hear your stories, it inspires me to be able to keep going too and supporting all of you.
Yeah. We got to nurture each other.
Yeah, we need to be there in connection and community of each other. So if you were going to tell someone, like someone said, hey, Stephanie, I'm thinking about, joining Jenny's program, and whether it's the certification or it could just be going through the personal development, maybe they don't see themselves being a yoga teacher. That's totally fine. What would you kind of tell that person if they were thinking about it?
Oh, that's a good question. Honestly, I'd say, like, if you suffer in any way, regards to anything mentally, be it anxiety, self-doubt, lack of self-awareness, anything that's holding you back, any area of your life that you are having struggles with, issue with, you can't unpack something, literally anything that we have even talked about through even just our conversation today, if that's you in any way, I'm like, you can benefit from this program. Like, the one thing I will say to people though is that you have to do the work. You have to be open. You have to accept anything that comes up with, and don't try your best not to label it. Cause God, like, it took me a while to get to that point of where I was not labeling things that were coming up. I was just being aware of them. Because I used to put value judgments on things like good or bad, or I should or I shouldn't. And something that you say to me a lot, or you've said in your classes that I take with me all the time, is stop shoulding on yourself. I say that to me all day long. Don't should on yourself. Should, shouldn't, don't matter what it is, throw the should out.
I'm writing that in the comments. Stop shitting on yourself. That's actually one of my favorite mantras. I've been teaching that since 2017.
Yeah.
Is telling people don't shit on yourself.
Yeah.
People always have to like listen a second time. They're like, did she say? No, she said should. And it's like, no, I didn't say the other word. I said should, because we should on ourselves way too much. Should have done this. We could have done that. We replay the past. And we can't, like, to your point, we can't change the past. We can't change something we did an hour ago. We can't change, let alone 5 years ago. So another one of my favorite sayings is, in 5 years, if it doesn't matter, don't spend 5 minutes of energy on it.
Yep. I just said that to my fiance the other day.
And you have to keep reminding yourself of these things, right? We need to keep supporting each other. Like you said, the fact that you say that to yourself all the time, you need to keep reminding the brain of these things, right? Constantly, so that you don't fall back into old patterns.
100%. I write notes to myself everywhere. I'm like, even above my desk right here, I've got a little pegboard where I've written little notes. I write little things. I have like sticky notes on my mirror, like little things everywhere, just as a reminder. You got to remind yourself. If you don't remind yourself, no one's coming to remind you. I'm like, you got to remind you.
And what else would you, I didn't mean to cut you off. What else, like whether it's the learning management system, whether it's a manual, whether it's the sadhana videos, the yoga videos, breathwork meditation, the video content, like what would you tell that student that was like, wow, I'm thinking about doing WiseMind Soul Warrior?
Absolutely. It's like, what I tell them is, what you're getting is like, honestly, it's kind of like Aladdin. It's like the hidden cave of, like, it's far beyond anything you can even imagine. When you get in there, you see the content, the amount of, you can tell the amount of time that you have spent on this. It shows the amount of content just in the manuals, the videos that you get. I'm like, for me, I'm like, I think I mentioned this the other day. I'm like, I kind of pretend like I'm on the live with you, because I know it was live when you were doing it. And I love that it's live. I love that you're just talking to people, like you're just kind of having a conversation with us, but you're teaching. And I love it. It's so easy to follow along with. It's comforting. I feel like I'm talking with a friend, even though I'm not actually like talking to anybody. So I'm like, that's really, it's nice. It's very comforting and relaxing and calming for me. I get to like write along with it. It's really awesome. And the handouts, phenomenal. I talk to people all the time about my handouts, like the different stuff, information. I was like, hey, I'm like, I've got something I can show you. I'm like, it's really awesome to have that material. And I know you created that material to help be of use for those who are taking this on like a professional way, like being coaching or yoga, so that you have these handouts. But I found them even just amazing for when my friends, like if I hear somebody bring up something and it's like, yeah, I got some information if you want it. And they're like, yeah, okay, cool. So I like sent that to people. And so that is an awesome thing that you include. The teachings, like I absolutely love like when we get down on the mat with like all of the different like scents and things going on with the sound therapy and the vibrational work, like through the chanting of mantra. I'm like, I love that so much. Like it has made a world of difference to me. It's the chakras and everything that we've gone through. Oh my gosh, it's made a world difference and made me very aware of the different areas in my body that were blocked. Like my voice, that's one of the things I had to work hard on, not the literal voice, although that has actually helped too. I'm like, it's helped my singing, which is weird. I'm like, because I'm not necessarily like a singer or anything, but I love to sing with songs. And so healing that is it's helped my voice and it's helped me be able to communicate with other people. So just using this program is it's the LMS is actually very easy to navigate. And personally, from speaking wise, I'm like, uh, you're able to access everything. I love that you can save the videos to YouTube. That's huge. I save most of my videos to my watch later, so that way it's all right there, and I can just click, click, click. It's very easy, so I can just save them all there. And so that's an option if you don't want to go into the LMS every time and like scroll through. Saving them to your watch later is really awesome. I love that feature. And tests or like any kind of quiz that comes up, not tests, but quizzes that come up, very easy to go through. Honestly, like I love the amount of time and effort that you spend on this. It shows, it really does.
Thank you. Thank you. Because it has been, believe me, a labor of love. I mean, it has been, gosh, it started back in 2020. So there's been years of, and I'll continue to add to it, right? That's not going to stop. But the point is, to your point, like it has been years in the making, because there's information that I brought in from when I used to coach, do yoga psychology coaching one-on-one. And so there's those pieces that have been integrated as well. And that was back in like 2017. So the point is, like, I started with actually building everything together in 2020, but this is like, going on 10 years of my healing journey, integrating as much as I can into this. And then eventually I'll probably have like a part 2, because there's so much more that I want to teach you guys. And there's only so much that I can put in one training, So, because I continue to evolve and change too. And I continue to do my own inner work, and I continue, to show up as an entrepreneur differently, as a leader differently, as in my relationships differently, as a mom, whatever the thing is. And I'm constantly learning, right? Because, the best teachers are lifelong students, right? Because you're never like done with learning, right? And if I was, if I was a multimillionaire, right? Like if I had a trust fund, right? Like I have found what I would do the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I love psychology. Like if I was a multimillionaire, I would like go get my PhD in psychology. Do you know what I mean? Like yoga and psychology and behavioral change and like, learning about how we show up, trauma shows up in relationships, like all these different things is fascinating to me. And so I'm so grateful that I have all this to share, because again, it's been part of my healing journey. And so I just end up sharing that back to you guys to say, here's my personal realization. This is what's worked for me. Maybe this will help you. I mean, that's pretty much where the intention is coming from. And that's been the case since I started the studio back in 2016, has been this yoga practice and this meditation and mindfulness practice changed my life. And I want to be able to share this with other people.
Same.
And, and I didn't have a business plan. I mean, I went by faith. I went by intuition and faith, because if I went clearly by a business plan or how much, I was going to make or not make opening a yoga studio, if it was just a business decision, it would have never happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always been a heart-centered entrepreneur. I still am.
Yep.
And that has not changed. And I hope it never does. I don't think it ever will, because I'm too much of a heart-centered person, for that to change, because it feels so out of alignment when I'm not in that place.
Same.
If that makes sense.
Oh,
So
100%.
yeah, and maybe at some point I'll bring somebody else in who's like a co-CEO or a CEO, and like that person just runs all the business stuff for me. I don't know, because I'm so in alignment when it comes to the heart-centered,
Yep.
being heart-centered. So okay, so anything else you can think of that you'd want to share? Any last words for anybody that listens to this replay? Because oftentimes with these, we may not get as many people on right now, but they'll join, they'll watch the replay later. So any other last words of wisdom for, those out there that were like, you know what, I'm struggling with stress, or I'm struggling with anxiety, or feeling overwhelmed or burnout, or I'm not really liking how I'm feeling about myself right now. Like, that's something that came up with Christina when I was talking to her. She was like, I didn't like who I was, like the person that I was being. Any of that resonates for you?
Yes, absolutely. Like, if anyone's struggling just in any way, mentally, physically, it doesn't matter. If you are struggling, the first step that you can take is just the first step. Like, just take the step, take a leap of faith. Trust yourself. Trust that there is no pass fail in this. There's no judgment. There's no labeling. You don't need to do that to yourself. Just show up. Show up. Be open. And if you cry, cry. I am a crier and a wonderful friend who is also like one of my shamanic like journey leaders. That she's a wonderful person. She just like, own your sensitivity. Own that is a powerful gift, because there are many that are not even connected who can't even cry. I have met people who've literally said, oh, I don't cry, I'm like incapable of crying, like crying makes them so uncomfortable. And other people crying used to kind of make me uncomfortable, and I think it was because I was uncomfortable with myself and the fact that I did cry a lot, like crying while speaking. We've even talked about this. You're like, that will get easier, and it has gotten a lot easier, where I'm able to kind of like regulate through it, where I'm not just a snot ball on the ground like I used to be. Pardon that visual. But just, if you feel anything, just like let it flow. Don't judge it. Just be with it. Don't let it take over you. Don't say like, oh, I'm such a bad person, or I'm a good person, like because I like just no judgment, good or bad. Just let it go. Let your feelings come in. Let them flow over you. Let the information soak into you. Let your mind accept things that it may never have thought it needed or could accept before. Just be open. You will be amazed at not only what changes in yourself. You'll be amazed at some of the things that you held on to through most of your life are things that you no longer value, are things that are literally, I'm like, there are some things that have been part of me for my entire life. They're gone. They were not serving me. They were not actually me. They were things that were holding me back that I didn't know. They were what we learn as samskara patterns. Like, there was literally, it's like, no, this is actually not serving me. It's not. And you will be amazed at what you will unpack with this program. And I highly encourage anyone, it doesn't matter who you are. If you've got a mind, you can practice mindfulness. If you've got a physically capable body, you can practice yoga. Anyone. And I highly suggest anyone doing it.
Yeah, and yoga can be like sitting in meditation. It can be sitting on a chair or on your couch meditating. It can be sitting still and breathing is doing yoga. So even if you have a physical, something that some type of injury or something,
Mhm.
first of all, there's ways that you can modify the practice. Like, for example, maybe
Right.
doing stuff on your knees, or there's different things you can do.
Mhm.
But the point being that even if you're doing the sadhana practices and you're doing the breath work and
Mhm.
meditation, you're still doing yoga because
You're
yoga
right.
has the three pillars, right?
You're right.
So,
You're right.
and you can be doing yin practices, for example, which is
Yeah.
stretching and
Yep.
not flowing. You don't have to flow
Yep.
in order to be doing yoga, right?
Yep.
So,
So many facets to yoga. That's what I
yeah.
love about it before. And like it, and sometimes, even I'll like remember, or when someone says yoga, it's like, hey, you think the physical aspect of it. And yoga is literally like, that's like what one of the, I think out of the 150 something sutras, that's like a very small amount of it is the physical yogas, like literally like everything else within. And it's really awesome.
Well, you could literally study yoga your entire life and never learn everything.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
and the more you start to study it, the more you realize it. I mean, you think about just like what we covered with the koshas and the chakras and the klishas, and I mean, and we're going to get more into those too. That's kind of the equivalent of like limiting beliefs. We're going to be talking more about that this year.
Mhm.
Um, but there's so many things. I mean, like yoga for stress, trauma informed yoga,
Mhm.
yoga psychology, and those are kind of more like the mixture of two different philosophies, right? Kind of mixing
Mhm.
yoga with psychology.
Yep.
And there's some of that where it absolutely integrates and it layers on top of each other, even though yoga
Mhm.
is an ancient, thousands of years philosophy. There are things that are taught in yoga that are psychology based.
Yep. Oh, 100%.
Yeah, and same thing with mindfulness in yoga, right?
Mhm.
A lot of the mindfulness principles like mind, body, breath awareness,
Mhm.
that's a yoga principle,
Yep.
mindfulness principle, letting go,
Mhm.
non-judgment, gratitude,
Yep.
all those things, right? So that's why for me, I remember when I started learning about mindfulness, which for me was about 10 years ago, I remember having this epiphany. And again, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it because I was learning about yoga at the same time. And then I started doing a teacher training and all these dots started to connect. And I was like, oh my gosh, like mindfulness and meditation and breath work and the physical practice of yoga and all the things. And that was the beginning of many awakenings since then. So, all right, lady. So for those of you that listen to this, it's Wise Mind Soul Warrior is our website. Again, Wise Mind Soul Warrior. You can go there and look at the modules, look at the curriculum, all the information. You can schedule a call from there too. There is a button to do that. I just realized I need to update my schedule. But that I'm gonna make myself a note. Um, and also, as Stephanie shared, and you're going to hear other students share the same, getting on a call with me, a consultation, there is no pressure. Like we're literally going to talk about, here's some things I'm struggling with. Here's where I want to go. Here's how the program might fit for you. And here's where it may not, right? So we're going to have like a real conversation so that we can determine that it's a good fit for you too. Like it's a good fit both ways.
Yep.
So that's part of our process. And we will be having, Melissa's going to be one of our transformation coaches, and she's going to be helping with that process as well. So just trying to connect with people that, is this a good fit for them? Because we want to be able to serve as many people as we can.
Right. Right.
We are limiting like how many people are in a cohort, right? So there's only so many spots that we bring in. Usually it's between 10 and 20 is like the limit of where we try to stay so that everybody gets enough kind of one-on-one attention or small group attention. So I'm just throwing that out there as well. So one last thing I did want to mention, because it's starting on Tuesday, which I almost forgot about because I get so I love doing these interviews with you guys and I just get totally distracted. So I get so much in the present moment, like I'm zooming in. We are starting a 3-day workshop on Tuesday and it's free. It's unleashnewYou.com. It'll be 12 noon Eastern time, Tuesday through Thursday. If you can't make it live, you can still register to watch the replays. So again, it's unleashnewYou.com. And if you're curious about yoga psychology, meditation, either a beginner, you're starting a meditation, you're going back and trying to restart a meditation practice, if you're interested in trauma-informed or breath work, or maybe you're just feeling stressed or overwhelmed or anxiety, or you're struggling in relationships, all the things, we're going to address that within this Unleash a New You. And I'm going to be doing guided meditation, breath work, mentoring, journaling, all those days. So, and you'll get, when you register, you get the recordings too. You just have to register. So again, it's unleashnewYou.com. It's free. We're only doing about 1 or 2 of these a year. So if you're highly considering, like if you're curious about yoga psychology, sign up and get on as many times as you can. If it's 1 out of 3 days, that's fine. If you can't be there every day, but we do encourage people to try to get on live, because I am going to be doing live Q&A and live mentoring. So you're going to get the best results with that. But I do understand some people have full-time jobs, or it just may not work out, the timing, which is why we offer the replays and the recordings. Okay. All right. So I'm sending you guys so much love, light, and blessing. Stephanie, thank you so much for like taking the time to be here. I'm so grateful. And thank you so much for, being vulnerable, for being transparent, for being so open to share, because your story is going to help other people. And that's another reason why each of us as teachers and as leaders have got to put our stories out there, because there's a unique set of women or men or both that we're meant to help and serve. Mm-hmm. And your story makes a difference. Every single person's story makes a difference. So that's why we have to get comfortable with sharing it. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. Because I can tell you, for me personally, and we talked about this earlier, 5 years ago, every time I talked about my story, I cried. Now I can talk about it like, do you know what I mean? That doesn't mean that I may not ever get emotional, but we talk about this. The more you tell your story and the more you heal and transform, and you're able to control the emotions when you're telling this story, that doesn't mean that sometimes you won't cry, but you're able to be more in the present of telling the story as if you're watching a movie.
Narrating.
And you're narrating the movie. You're not in the movie.
I narrate a lot. I'm like the narrator.
That doesn't mean that you're like tempering your gifts of being a highly sensitive person, right? It means that you can tell a story, you can tell the story and not, get overwhelmed with emotion, if that makes sense. And that doesn't mean that your gift of being highly sensitive and emotional is not going to be used. But it's going to be used in a different way. Like once people, you get further along in the program or in the, connecting with people on a deeper level. Does that make sense? Like that's when you're going to start connecting with people.
100%.
Like at a deeper level.
Yeah.
But I remember like the first time I shared about, 4 years of generational trauma with physical, mental, verbal abuse, alcoholism, I cried. I mean, it wasn't like bawling, like tears running down I couldn't hold back the tears running down my face. Whereas now, like I said, I'm simply a narrator watching a movie. I'm not in it anymore, because I've done enough healing, I'm not in the movie anymore.
Yep.
So I'm excited to see you and everybody else that has gone through the program, that you're going to share your unique story. Like, for example, like you being misdiagnosed with bipolar, and, what happened to you with straining your neck, with the stress that you were under, and some of these other things that have happened to you. You're going to be able to get to the point where you can share some of that, and talking about like you're growing up with your parents and the things you shared about your inner child healing and all of that stuff. Like you'll get to the point where you'll be able to talk about it as a narrator, as a witness mind.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, girl. Well, you can tell I could talk about this all day long.
Same.
So I'm sending you so much love, light, and blessing. Thank you again for taking the time and the energy to be here with us and to share your experience. And again, thank you for the vulnerability and transparency. And we will connect with you soon. Okay. Namaste.
Namaste.
And we will see you all soon. Take care. Thank you, girl. Bye. Bye.